Hello, boys. It is me, Sandwich Delivery Man, Gavin. It has been a little bit. We've had quite a bit of changes of things and things, and I thought, hey, why not share my thoughts, see what you guys think, because we've got some pretty decent changes that came out, boys. We really did. So, I mean, we had Terror Zones, alright? That's been pretty big, so I'm keen to talk a little bit about that, what I think. And then also, these very, very big Sundered charms. So you've probably seen a lot of the other content creators chuck out their own opinions of their little videos and stuff, so I wasn't really in a rush, but I thought, fuck it. Why not, boys? Let's cover some stuff, eh? So, because I'm old and weathered, like the rest of the locals down here, I wrote up a little bit of a notepad for myself. So I guess we can just, go on through and see what I think. First thing that I've been kind of pissed about is why is the PTR not available offline? It has been, it is available offline. It's just the changes specifically, they're not available offline, which is a bit annoying because I have all my set like heredited characters for specific builds that I wanted to that I want to test specific things. I also think that's very good to allow these changes to be tested offline specifically, right? So people like myself can test specific niche builds that aren't really supplied on the template characters like this. Like, I mean, okay, sure, you give us a little Blizzork, but I can't exactly test everything with all of these charms and whatnot. So I think, if someone at Blizzard does see this, I would recommend that, if possible, right? Make these changes available to test widely and openly on offline, like has done in the past. I'm not sure if that, if there's like limitations because of Terror Zones that they're having. I believe on release is only going to be accessible on like ladder. That's why it is online. So I wonder if there is a limit there on that part. So I'll hold off loading the gun on that. But I guess moving on, boys. What else do I have to bitch about? So I think I'll dive into Terror Zones first, because that was, the release before these kind of charms caught me off guard pretty badly. So, like, Terror Zones. I'm not going to explain exactly what these things are. I'm not the first person to jump out all these videos, so, I'm sure you guys know what they are if you're watching this right now. So, what do I really think are the good things initially of Terror Zones? I think, obviously, it changes the 99 leveling meta. I think that's pretty substantial, right? I mean, this game's been out for ages. We're all farming the same areas over and over and over again. Particularly, I know in the past I had some of the boys would join my MF games only for like a few minutes just to clear a few areas like Eldritch and Shank and then here and there, and then they'll bugger off and I'm like, god damn it, I want to clear those too. So it's nice to have more options available for not only like the top meta builds to kind of clear, to have like more incentivized to clear them, but also to open up different areas that have different resists, so other builds feel like they're not isolated to farming like specifically fire focused builds, right? They're kind of locked into doing Stony Tomb until they're old and grey, but now there's potentially a few other areas that they can go to as well. So that's exactly those two here. So I guess I covered that. New builds, farm, valuable areas, blah, 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 blah. New highlight areas, we have an excuse to visit. I think this is really cool. They added a couple of new things. I think I still have the window up here. What else did they add, boys? They added the pit, which I think is a very good one, because that is probably the most popular, like, high-level elite farmer in the game. Yeah. I don't think anyone is really going to contest my point on that. City of Damned is a good one. It is a very good one. I thought Damned was had an M in there. Maybe that's a curse word. Maybe they censored it, boys. I don't know. But I think that's a very good one. I kind of like this area. This is one of the areas that I always liked, but there was no incentive to go there and fucking farm, boys. So I'm very glad to see this little tweak and also adding the pits in there. But like all of these things, we wouldn't really farm, to be honest. Okay, maybe there's the one bloody Steven down in chat, and he's like, oh, I like clearing Cathedral regularly. Oh, I like walking with my wife and you know, clearing a couple of fallen camps in Darkwood. No, you fucking don't, mate. Shut it, alright? But, I mean, having little patches like this, we've got more incentive to go to weird areas, and we still feel like it's beneficial, right? What else do we have, boys? So, some cons. Let's bring open the D2 screen, because that's what we're familiar looking at, hey? Nice and cute. What do I think are cons, though, initially? I did put through, I did test a little bit, I did put through some PTR, some feedback, I suppose, criticism. I'm a bit disappointed, and I know some of my mates are quite disappointed, there's no change to initial mob density. So, maybe that's something we can see potentially in the future. But alongside changing to mob density, I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with making these areas more challenging. Because now, with the addition of these charms, which I'll get into in this video, there's a little bit of power creep-ish. So I feel like these terror zones are going to be cleared even faster by even more builds, right? We should be making these a bit more challenging. I really think we should. One other thing, which was a little disappointing for me, is there's no addition to visual indicators. So I guess if there's one here, Corrupted Tremor strikes in jail. Alright. Let's go over to jail and have a look. And I'll show you what I don't really like. So when we do join, you could see the screen kind of shakes. It's a shortish shake, it seems, than when Uber Diablo spawns. There is it also, I think it popped up another purple underneath the area name. And that's about all we have for visual indicators. The only other thing would be, let me find another mob down here. Right next to the name, we've got a little, it looks like a little Diablo head at the top, boys, but honestly, it looks like a fly or a bug, in my opinion, on the left and right side of the name. Those are the only visual indicators. And I thought, like, okay, for new players that are playing, joining a game, or if they just happen to walk into, like, one of these areas, there's nothing that pops out as, like, unique, as different. We've got exactly the same density, we've got exactly the same mobs, they're a slightly higher level, there's no change in density, there's no change in color, there's no change in atmosphere or anything, or affixes on any of the mobs, the champions, the elite packs. It is still the same. And me personally, I would want to see something more. It doesn't have to be drastic, but I would like to see these be a more fun place visually to actually farm. You kind of get what I'm saying? Maybe this is just me, but it's still kind of boring to clear these areas. Sure, you can go there initially, you're going to see the screen vibrate a little bit, but it's basically the same. It's basically the same. So the main thing here with Terror Zones is you've got another place to farm that can, you know, still add benefit to your Magic Fight runs. That's about it. But I would like to see them add more to making these Terror Zones more unique in themselves. I think this is a really cool idea. I'm really impressed that they tried to, like, step out of their bubble and make a big change like this. But I want it to have more presence. So if you walk into a Terror Zone, you'll be like, oh, this is a Terror Zone. There's more density to incentivize fully clearing the area, because in certain areas, right, it's exactly the same, and we know boys, how bad some of these areas are for actually spawning mobs. All right, anyways, let's kind of carry on. I think that's enough on Terror Zones. If you agree, if you don't, let me know down below. I mean, this is what we do, right? So let's move down to Sundered charms. This is the big thing that kind of caught me off guard, right? Because, like, just before the patch 2.5 dropped, boys, I think there was a post on Twitter from one of the devs, and they're like, oh, you know, we're just working on one kind of big change. Don't expect, like, a lot of like adjustments here and there and things like that. So okay, so they're already dampening our expectations. And then so here's Terror Zones, and we're like, okay, that's kind of all we're getting. And then boom, right out of left field, boys, they give us the biggest, like arguably the biggest fucking change this game has had since like Resurrected has launched. What the fuck? So initially, I was very on the fence, very skeptical, but the more I'm looking into it, I'm leaning towards more optimistic. But I think there's definitely tweaks and adjustments that need to be done, and it's very hard to say right now conclusively if it's really good or if it needs to be readjusted, like reworked entirely. I'm not really sure. But like initially, I'm like, okay, fuck me. Off meta is absolutely bussin', boys. I was sitting there looking at the damn patch notes, and I'm like, oh my god, what do I do, boys? We've got magic builds that are viable now, that I haven't even jumped into yet. All of my physical builds that can't meet certain areas that I've kind of deemed not good enough for a video to show you guys, I've just kind of excluded, and I feel like I need to check them again. Same goes for like cold builds, right? Now for like cold sorks, you've got cold mastery with minus res, which is you basically OP as fuck, which I'll get into. That's on my notes. But like all of these, this is so fun. This is fucking awesome for me. I love off meta shit. Obviously, boys. This is really cool. It's a little bit daunting because I feel like I need to go back through my spreadsheets and figure out what the fuck actually works. This is kind of a glimpse of some shit that I'm dealing with, boys. So there you go, get bricked up looking at that. But yeah, that's daunting. I don't want to touch that. But I digress. Enough about me. What's fucking good about this, boys? Obviously, it encourages build diversity. Why? Reduces the reliance on infinity and lower res. Because as you know, there's only a very limited pool of ways we can actually cut down the immunities and the resistances of certain mobs, so that severely limits the builds, right? Severely. Like, looking at this here, we've got their template of their cold sork. We can safely run insight if we run a charm like this as a method to break immunities. So like, you can scroll down backlog of videos on my channel, pretty much everything has infinity, right? Because elemental it has the most variety in terms of mixing and matching different off-meta builds, in my opinion, and you just have to have it, and Diablo just spawned offline. Excuse me, mate. Well, I suppose that's a good comparison, boys. You could see how long the screen actually fucking shakes when Diablo spawns compared to... White, stop shaking. Please. Where's I going with this? Okay, so like, usually elemental builds, you have to have infinity. You're locked into infinity. But having these charms now, it allows us to kind of like go for an insight like we have here, to have that opportunity. It doesn't replace an infinity, it doesn't replace that, it actually makes it better. But for people that like for the casual Walmart workers, you know, as one of you boys commented on my previous video, you know, nothing against Walmart if you work there, okay, but just people that play casually, it's very difficult to, you know, play yourself, to build and get like 2 burrs to trade up and do whatever, whether you're working with FG or not is irrelevant. It still takes a fair investment of time and effort to really build that, to feel like you can make an elemental build viable. So it's a very it's a high bar for entry in order to really farm all these different areas. So like, along with Terror Zones, they've made more areas open and accessible with, you know, more, you know, visible benefit to actually farm, and now more builds can actually do so a bit easier with access to these charms. What else have I got on here? One other thing I wrote was, I think it could be potentially good to trade in the economy. I put a question mark here because it's hard to say, because one of the things is we do not know the actual rarity yet, boys. That's a thing. A lot of people are speculating, oh, maybe it could be exactly the same as Geed's Fortune. Maybe. I don't think that would be bad. I don't think that would be bad. I wouldn't want to see it more common than Geeds, and I don't think it would be. But remember, in the patch notes, boys, these charms, they only drop in Terror Zones, and they only drop from Elites and Champions, so it's even more limited. So carrying on. Those are like the main pros, right? There's definitely more, you know, there's probably some that you guys are thinking of that I haven't put here, but I think it needs a little bit more testing, and I'm a little annoyed that I can't test with my offline characters and to really kind of push these in some weird and quirky builds. So I'm going to have to sit here patiently and frustrated, waiting for October 6th or 7th, because I'm in New Zealand. Absolute shithole. Love you. But, cons, boys. Unsure of the rarity. Hopefully they will disclose that in the coming weeks or so. That would be really good. Or maybe they won't. Maybe we'll figure it out. But if I was going to make an assumption, boys, I would say it's going to be around the same as Geeds, I think. And a good thing to keep in mind, boys, is when they do drop... Sorry, I moved this notepad across. They do actually roll the base... what do you call it? I was going to say icon. But I guess the variant charm, right? So you can get these in each one. So because these roll in the different looking Grand Charm variants, I think this could be quite fun to kind of trade, right? To find like one that matches up with all my skillers, and then you get a cute little blue one with the eye charm. Oh, I think it could be cool. I would like to see some varied stat rolls in here. I think that would be kind of cool for min-maxing, for people who like that. I don't know. Like, let's say it rolled from minus... minus 60 to minus 75 cold res. So then people could try and kind of have more incentive to pick up more of them. Because at the moment, you get one... you don't really need another one. It's exactly the same. Everything on it is set. I think there should be something else added, some aspect for it to actually roll other than just the variant that you're looking at. Another thing, it's not currently working for summons, traps, and hydras. So this is exactly, this is the same kind of deal with, what's the word? Like on a Trapsin, if you have a Griffins with plus lightning damage, it doesn't actually correlate to your traps because they are their own entity. They work by themselves, right? So that damage is not added to them. So you summon the trap, but then the trap summons the lightning. So if you summoned, like, if you cast lightning on your trap, on your actual assassin, that would get the plus benefit percent damage of lightning, but your trap is unfortunately not wearing the Griffins, so it doesn't get the benefit. I guess that's like a dumb way of a dumbed down way of explaining it. But hopefully this is something they do change, because me and the boys have been a little bit disappointed that some summon builds and you know, working with traps and Hydra haven't got as much love as I think they kind of deserve. So I think they will. I like to think that they will fix this. I'm not sure how, but hopefully they can, because by adding these charms, it's obviously to add open more build diversity to farm high level areas, and this is kind of counterproductive if they don't fix this, because there's a lot of like making druid summon builds viable. There's a lot of variants now, because you can build shapeshifting or spec elemental, split, and then have a whole set of summons. You've got Trapsins, you've got Hydra's been redone, all of these things, right? And they really should make these beneficial to encourage those builds more. Because at the moment, looking at the release of these charms, right, and not working for summons and traps, there is a lot less incentive to go for a Trapsin or Hydra. I'm telling you, boys. Telling you right now, that's not good for those builds. I personally think that these charms widens the gap between physical and elemental builds. So there's a few things that kind of come into me being concerned about this. The first is that elemental builds are obviously already they're performing quite consistently higher than physical builds. That's how it has been for a while, and that's just kind of how it is. Now, this increases everything across the board. They get access to all the same stuff, except if we look at the physical one, alright? damage increased by 25% is, it's quite a lot, boys. That's quite a lot of fucking damage, if I say so myself. And it really benefits more so throwing barbarians and like Bulbasons. Damage increased by 25%, couldn't give a fuck, mate. But you've got like, maybe you're trying to spec a Whirlwind Assassin or something obscure like that, which I would do because I'm a weird boy. But this needs a bit more love, it needs a bit more reworking, but you can't solve the entire imbalancing, you can't kind of minimize that gap between elemental and physical builds, in my opinion, just by tweaking a charm here. I would like to see this charm being changed to something else other than damage increased by 25, or just kind of reducing that down to maybe like 15 or something else like that. Maybe damage increased by 15, and then also reducing all resistance across the board by like a small amount, maybe 15. I'm not sure. If you guys have some ideas down below, definitely chuck it down there. But I think increased by 25% that is too much, boys. I think that's way too much. What else do we have? I think more specific changes need to be done to change top meta. Eventually. This is like something that needs to be done further down the road, but the reason why I put it here is I've seen a few people kind of comment like, oh, adding these charms in is not going to change anything to the top meta, it's only going to change this, it's going to increase the gap between physical and elemental builds, kind of exactly as I said. But this change I don't think is meant to change anything in the top meta. So that, like, the meta has been very set. Forgive me for wiping my fucking nose. I was holding off recording this video for like 20 minutes because my allergies were killing me. But you know what, boys? Don't let your dreams be dreams, okay? If you want to record a shit video about PTR 2.5, go ahead. But, boys, the meta in this game has been set for like freaking nearly 20 years, 15 years, okay? It's going to take a long time to kind of tweak it and make sure the community and all of us are collectively behind it and okay with these changes. We can't expect things to be done like big and all in one go. So I think I'm pretty happy overall with how these charms have been kind of worked in. Needs more testing, but in order to change the top meta, I think they really need to do some other stuff, which I'll get into. In terms of like the charms themselves, I think they're okay. What would I like to see different about these charms? So I guess like one thing, I'm pretty happy that they can roll the different variant, but I would like to see some of the minus resistances or something on the charm that actually rolls, so there's incentive to pick it up. That's something I enjoy personally, playing these games on the really high end, when you have all of your shit, boys, when you've spent ages trading with everyone, you have all your stuff. I still want to be incentivized to pick up that Geed's charm, because if it happens to roll, 39% or 40% magic find, then I can replace my 36% one. So that if there's still a chance to have something that's a slight upgrade, there's still that level of excitement and it feels like it's worth identifying. I think that's really important personally. Let me know what you guys think. But I think that would be a good idea to even add like a varying roll of, let's say, minus 60% to minus 75, right? Moving on. As for the charms themselves, let's kind of have a look, right? So we've got lightning, as you'd expect. I think the name is a little bit sus. Maybe they'll change that. Go over to poison, is about the same. Fire is kind of fine. I didn't mention physical. I think damage increase 25 is a bit much. Hopefully they do change that one. If we go over to cold is fine, but we need to think about how it kind of interacts with a few builds. And first thing that kind of popped as a red flag for me is cold mastery, boys. So you can really pump this shit out, and in conjunction with running one of these charms, as we have here, you can basically nuke the resistances of anything. You run around, you've got the immunity is broken from the cold Sundered charm, And then with Cold Mastery maxed out at 20 skills, with your plus skills like here, 24, there you go. Minus 135% on top of their broken immunity. So you don't really need Infinity, but even if you had that, you're going to be just destroying anything. So I think Cold Sorks could be way back to the top of the meta. We'll have to see. Maybe that's too much of an early assumption. But yeah, that was definitely a flag. That was a flag for me, boys. The only other few that we have here is the magic resist. Now, for the magic stuff, I think this does need to be adjusted a bit. There is a very, very, very small pool of builds that actually utilize magic damage as their primary, source. Magic damage, it's not the best, boys. It's not the best. It's most well known for, obviously, Hammerdins. But the other one that really uses it is probably your Necro. So it's very limited. I feel like this needs to be changed a little bit more. Perhaps Monster Magic Community is Sundered instead of just having that label the same as the other ones. Perhaps they can change it, or even as a hidden value, allow it to reduce the magic resistance even more of mobs to a certain degree. I'm not sure exactly. It's just that Bone Masters are not really going to get much value at all from using these things. At all. I don't see it being worth fuck all. Just hands down. It's not going to be worth fuck all. What else is on the list, boys? That is about it for cons and stuff. But changes I'd like to see. I thought I might as well chuck in a few here, because we've talked about some shit, and I like rambling, as you do. This point here, I mentioned, more specific changes need to be done to change top meta. There's a lot of different ways that we could go about targeting this. People are going to say different stuff, but I would like to see mainly further skill balancing. I'd really like to shout out Macro Bio Boy. Just when 2.5 PTR notes were coming live, I think in the past week or so, he's been dropping like one video of each of the classes, going over, kind of analyzing and breaking down all the skills and what stuff he thinks kind of need tweaking, adjustments, synergies, and all of that, going through each of them. And I, like being a fellow nerd of D2, I fucking enjoyed watching those. So I hope he does those in the future when more stuff being, altered. But I think this is a big thing. A big thing. There is a lot of skill balancing that needs to be done. I will say I'm very impressed with what they have done, boys. I'm sure you could probably say the same with a few stuff, but there is a lot that's still left on the cutting room floor that needs to be dealt with. It really does. Particularly with these top meta builds, freeing up synergy allocations. One that comes to mind is Warcry. For the Warcry synergies, you need 80 fucking skill, boys, if you want to max that out. You can't even maximize battle orders if you want to go for find item. And you're a barbarian. And you're a singer bard, for fuck's sake. So, I won't even open that can of worms. But basically, there's more stuff to be done in terms of skill balancing, for sure. Another thing is revisiting physical weapons and trying to rebalance them across the board. So from like normal, nightmare, scaling for weapons, and then also going into hell, that's something that needs to be kind of reworked and relooked at, I think. I don't really know exactly how to go about doing that. That's something I haven't really dived into planning-wise. But I feel like that would be very good to do long-term, and I feel like that would be the best way to try and close that gap between elemental and physical, specifically. Because early game and leveling through, we all know, we've all been there, boys. I don't want to start as a fucking barbarian because it takes 10 years to get to Act 2. It's okay, we've been there. So there's definitely things that can be done to improve the player experience of playing melee builds, right? Of what that'll be, don't know. One thing I really want to see above everything else, right? Further skill balancing is probably number one, but I guess number two for me is I do not want to see new rune words anymore, and I do not want to see new uniques. What do I want to see? We have so many fucking old uniques and outdated rune words that make no sense. They match no builds. They were made by like probably a different developer team at the time, and then like later on when new rune words came out, like treachery and all of that, it's a completely different team that probably dropped them out. Like, there's so much content in this game that needs to be looked at. I don't think we need more and more new content. I think we need a new look at current content. There's so many, like, two-handed weapons, right? Needs to be looked at across the board. Two-handed can't even compare against other stuff. Staffs against shield and orb or like wand, right? Can't even compare. Stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff in this game. There's so many uniques that people don't use, we don't even pick up. But if we just tweak them, if we add some more beneficial affixes, if we make them more catered towards this build or that build, it can add, I believe, the same amount of value and excitement, right, for players and myself as like a new one will. And I would rather see that than sifting through the old filing cabinet trying to pull out and you know, rework some old shit, other than trying to put a new ones here and new ones here and new ones here, because those old ones are still going to be in the game. And I'm sure we can all agree there's always, yeah, for us that have been playing this game for a long time, if you come across that old weapon like the Diggler Dirk, that's an absolute meme. You remember these weapons, right? And I always wish that some weapons like the Storm Rider had more value and had purpose, because they look really cool. They have a unique look of them. Like, you can see Nightwing's veil it's so unique. There's no other helms that are really that blue like that. They should have a bit more value. There's so much room there. And of course, I'll probably get shot to the ground, boys, if I didn't mention that, of course. Of course, there's more quality of life that needs to be done. I'm not going to bother rambling more about what quality of life we can add. But you name it, there's always more to be done, boys. Stash chabs, runes, shortcuts for more stuff. You name it, it's all there. Loot filter, win. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to end that there, boys. Here's a nice little rambling thing. I don't really do these things. I don't feel like I don't know. It's not really my type of thing. But I mean, if you guys enjoy it, if you want to hear me ramble and talk about dumb shit like patch notes when they release it like this, let me know. Because I'm kind of experienced when it comes to talking shit to just a microphone and a screen that I've been looking at for a while. That's about it. I'm going to blow my nose and probably have a hot chocolate and go just go watch some more Netflix, really. I'll see you boys later. Don't worry, more stuff is coming. Bubble Week is coming. I'm still working on that. I want to make them somewhat decent builds. So in the next few weeks, that'll be coming. Love you boys. Bye.